All right, now, Shalom. Of course, first and foremost, we have to give all praises unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, the Most High God, the name of His only begotten Son. We're coming back through the grace, spirit, and power of the Most High with another Sabbath class. We're going to deal with the Torah and the Gospel as we do every week. Today, we're going to start at Genesis 41 and 1. So if you could, Tyler, go ahead.
Genesis 41 and 1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh, and they fed in a meadow, and behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean flesh, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean flesh kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in the ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, and I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent.
Now, real quick, what we see is how the Most High be having everything set up in the spirit, and how beautiful he be doing it. Because the Most High had it to where them 2 individuals was locked in that jail and had them dreams while they were in the midst of Joseph, so he could then interpret and break them dreams down to them, and then they saw them actually come to pass. So then a couple of years later, you got that same baker, when Pharaoh comes and has a dream, comes and tells Pharaoh about Joseph. You see what I'm saying? Which is going to be the catalyst to Joseph getting put on and Israel getting put on. All right, go ahead.
And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph,
now real quick, when it says shaved himself, the word also can mean to pull or to cut. So basically, he cut his hair, he cut his beard down. I don't mean he shaved it off. He cut it. You see what I'm saying? He'd been sitting up in that jail cell. He probably was looking real rough. So he freshened up, okay, after being in prison for that long length, right? So go ahead.
The Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. Yahweh shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Yeah, that's right. Yahweh did an answer. He wasn't taking the credit because the Most High bestowed him the ability to interpret the dreams. He knew it was the Most High that was dealing with him, that was giving it to him. So he gave all honor and credit and glory to the Most High. Right? Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat flesh and well favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 kine came up after them, poor and very ill favored and lean.
Be quiet.
Such as I never saw, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears with withered thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians. But there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. But the Most High has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are the 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Yahweh is about to do, he showed unto Pharaoh. Behold, there came 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall rise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by the Most High, and the Most High will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of the Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store in the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh.
So Joseph came with a perfect economic plan for Egypt. Because you have guys who will say that there's no economic plan in the Bible, this and that. But as we see, ancient Egypt's economy was saved and flourished as a direct result of Joseph's interpretation of that dream to the power of the Most High. You understand? So our forefathers was very wise dealing with economics. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this is a man in whom the Spirit of the Most High is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as the Most High has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestes and chain, and in the area which he had, and they cried before him, bowed the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 17th years the earth brought forth by handfuls, and he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for the Most High said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house.
So when he called the name Manasseh, which Manasseh in the Hebrew means made to forget, because he was looking at Manasseh as a gift from the Most High that signified how he had forgotten about all the hell that he went through. The persecution that his own brothers put him through, being locked up in that prison house, being a servant, all those things. He forgot about it because the Most High exalted him in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And gave him all these goods to where he was second in command under Pharaoh. So he named his son Manasseh as a token of his rejoicement for how the Most High rewarded him. Right? Go ahead.
In the name of the second called he Ephraim, for the Most High hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction.
Exactly. He became fruitful in that land, you know, and that's what Ephraim means, to be fruitful, man. Ephraimites are known for being fruitful. Listen, Ephraimite brother that's on the class right now, he got a few kids, and he just told me he got another one on the way. See, Ephraim is fruitful. Okay? Last week we was reading about him running the jails, right? Go ahead.
And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come, according to Joseph had said, and the dearth was in all lands, but in the land of Egypt there was bread.
In the land of Egypt there was bread. Why? Because Joseph came up with a logical economic plan that would store food and give them a surplus so they were able to wax rich, like America in the 90s. Right after the dawn of the century, after Clinton went out of office, a lot of negative, quote-unquote, things started to happen in America, you know, starting with Bush. Because the surplus that Clinton had that sustained America in the 90s and kept America, quote-unquote, great in the 90s was totally diminished, right? So it's all about a surplus. You have to have not only goods to sustain yourself, you have to have goods stored up let's say, for example, if you have a day's worth of food in your house, you're going to have to be out the door the very next day to go get food. But if you have 6 months worth of food in your house, you could be more self-sufficient. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to go necessarily suck on the teeth. And that was how Egypt did it. Not saying you should go stock up on food, but this is how nations work. If you don't have a surplus, you're going to be asked out. So all the neighbors of Egypt didn't have a surplus, so they had to come to Egypt because Egypt had that surplus, and that's how Egypt waxed rich during the time of Joseph. All right, go ahead.
And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he said to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because the famine was so sore in all the land.
Exactly. Nobody had no food. So everybody had to go to Egypt. All right, Tazama, pick that up in chapter 42.
This is Genesis 42:1. And when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do you look one upon another? And
now, real quick, Jacob said, What the hell are y'all doing just standing there looking at each other? We ain't got no food. Go to Egypt and get me some food. Why do you look one upon another? Put your damn hands in your pockets. Understand, it's a black man talking to his children, right? Go ahead.
Verse 2, and he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Go ye down thither and buy us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him.
He was so protective over Benjamin. That was his last kid. That's his baby. That's Rachel's child. And you saw what happened to Rachel's first child. They perceived that Joseph was dead at this point. So he was very protective over Benjamin. He didn't want Benjamin to go with him. He sent the other 10, right? Go ahead.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And
now
Joseph
hold that. Get real quick, Tazabah, Genesis 37:6, and read 6 to 8.
Genesis 37:6. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dream and for his words.
So they hated him. But as we see right now in Genesis 42:6, that dream surely came to pass. All right, he's reigning over them right now, and they just came with their face to the earth to Joseph, right? So pick that back up.
Genesis 42:7. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. It says, And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land you are come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are my servants come.
So Joseph is playing a game with his brother. He said, look, yeah, y'all are spies, man. Y'all coming over here to start some madness. So he's scaring him. He's frightening him, which any of us probably would have did in that situation, especially based off the last encounter that he had with his brothers when they set him up to get sold into slavery, right? But the question is, how in the hell, if they don't know that's Joseph and they are under the perception that that's the Egyptian, are they communicating with this Egyptian? We know the Egyptians speak that Metoneta madness, and we speak Hebrew. So how are they communicating to this man? Skip to 23 real quick, the 23rd verse.
Okay. Verse 23. It says, And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
By an interpreter. So they didn't know. He was playing the whole role so good that he was even using the interpreter, even though he knew what they were saying. They really thought that was a Hamite they was dealing with. Whole time they're dealing with their own brother, but just to show that we didn't speak the same language as the Egyptian. So an interpreter was necessary for us to communicate. Okay, go ahead.
And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's son. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land you are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest this day is with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them,
The one that is not is who? That's Joseph. Talking to him about himself as if he's dead. But he's not. They talking to him, right? Go ahead.
And Joseph said unto them, That is it that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved, by the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither.
So Joseph is playing a game with him, right? And the whole purpose of the game is so he could see his brother, because he didn't know that he had a little brother. He had no idea. Or Salakia. I believe Benjamin was born there, but he hadn't seen Benjamin. That's what I meant. Salakia. He hadn't seen Benjamin, so he wanted to see Benjamin. So this is all a plot for him to see Benjamin, right? Go ahead.
16. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them in the third day.
Into ward, right? Meaning they put them into subjection, right? Like down south, New Orleans, Atlanta, other parts of down south. The cities are separated into wards, right? And chiefly the places that are considered wards are the areas in which that our people inhabit. You see what I'm saying? Letting you know the message that they're trying to relay with the whole ward system. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And Joseph said unto them the third day, This do and live, for I fear the Most High. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your house, but bring your youngest brother unto me. So shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so, and they said to one another, We are very guilty concerning our brethren, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is his distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required.
So Reuben, look, I told y'all we shouldn't have did that to Joseph. And since he did that, now we pay him for it right now. They were under the impression that they was getting ready to die. Okay? And this is all Joseph playing a game with him. Go ahead.
And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
Exactly. So the whole time they're having this council amongst themselves in Hebrew, And Joseph is watching it as if he don't know what's going on, but he's hearing everything they're talking about, so he's playing off of that also, right? Go ahead.
Verse 24, and he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes.
So he went from before them and wept, meaning he went in private and actually cried because he was so happy to see his brothers, man, to be reunited with his family, right?
Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provisions for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money. For behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that the Most High have done unto us?
So they were anticipating a punishment and possibly even death as a recompense for that sin that they committed against their brother Joseph. Instead of that, they get all the corn they came seeking for free, and they get to keep their money. So they were very surprised by this, that they were graciously delivered from what they thought was a sure affliction. Go ahead.
And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, we are true men, and we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So I will deliver your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack, and all the bundles were afraid. And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye
Welcome. This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com.
There are 15 participants in this conference. Muted. Please announce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
All right, Genesis 42:33. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. Verse 35, and it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these are against me.
So he's mad as hell at his kids because he's like, damn, y'all keep getting my kids killed. Joseph gone, Simeon gone. He done wrote Simeon off at this point. He's like, now Benjamin's finna go, right? Go ahead.
Verse 37, and Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons, if I come not to thee, deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said,
so Reuben gave his word, because Reuben, he was the one that was the voice of reason during the situation with Joseph, you could recall. When you go earlier in this chapter, we see that he said the judgment was going to come to them for what they did unto Joseph. So he said, look, Pops, you could kill both my kids if I don't bring your son back. Right? That's how serious he was, because he had a heavy heart about this whole situation. Go ahead.
And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave.
Yeah, he said he's going to die a very sad man if he loses Benjamin. Okay, talks about, you could pick it up in 43.
43:1. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face. So if thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether he had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? We told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel, his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise to go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little one.
So Jacob said, the only way Benjamin going is where I'm going, so let's just all go. Right, go ahead.
I will be surety for him. Of mine hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him for thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we have returned the second time. And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand, peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And the Most High Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother, and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin and rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the ruler of his house, Bring him home, and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, O sir, we came in indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in his mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. He had brought it again in our hand. And the other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, Peace be to you, fear not. Your power and the power of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money, and he brought Simeon out unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph. Came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom you speak? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, Most High be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there.
You see, so he was getting so emotional about it. You know, he got up and ran to his room and cried a little bit. You see what I'm saying? That's how serious it was. I mean, you got to think about it. He was basically sold into slavery by his own brother, separated for years, decades. You know, he went through all sorts of hell, got put in that prison in Egypt. Then he was, you know, the Lord blessed him, put him in Pharaoh's house, gave him the whole Egypt under his feet, basically. And then now he finally gets reunited with his brothers, his younger brother, his own mother's son. That's why I keep, you know, singling them out, because they got the same mother, you know, and things of that nature. So, you know, this is very emotional, very moving for Joseph. Right? Go ahead.
And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself. Said, Set on bread. And they set on him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And
so they was all two separate tables, because he was still keeping the whole gag going that he wasn't an Hebrew, he was in fact a Hamite, because the Egyptians, the Mizraimites, they didn't want to sit with the Hebrew. They looked down on us, right, because of goat herders and all that bad. So they looked down on us, right? Go ahead.
And they set before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another.
They couldn't believe it. In hell, if we was there, we wouldn't be able to believe it. Right? Go ahead.
And he took and sent mess unto them from before him. For Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as many of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him.
When it says mess, the term mess, when you look it up in the Hebrew, it just means portion. So they gave Joseph a larger portion than he gave to the other 11, or the other 10 rather. Why is that? Because of course he had favoritism towards Joseph because they had the same mama, right? So I picked it up in 44 and just read to 17.
Genesis 44:1. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou comest overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have you rewarded evil for good? Is not this it which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil in so doing. And he overtook
Joseph,
them.
Again, we keep seeing how much of a game Joseph is playing. This is how you know this is number one, he's the father of Ephraim, right? Is it not said about Ephraim that Ephraim is a silly dove? He's playing a game, you know, a real game on these dudes. He's setting them up. He's scared. They kept thinking they meeting with the face of death. And he has the right to play a little bit of a game with him because of what they did to him. They sold him into slavery. For all they know, they gave their own brother up. So he's playing a little game, and he's scaring them a little bit. But it's all for the ultimate goal of unifying Jacob's family again. Okay? And there's one piece missing. All the brothers that came, but who hasn't came yet? Jacob hasn't. You see? Go ahead.
Verse 6, And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words, and they said unto him, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that my servant should do according to these things, according to this thing. It says, Behold, the money which we found in our sack's mouth, we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy land's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen. And he said, Now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and begat at the eldest and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes and laden every man his ass and returned to the city. Verse 14, and Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said unto them, What deed is this that ye have done? What ye not that such a man as I serve divine? And Judah said, What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? The Most High have found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. Verse 17, and he said, The Most High forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. That was 17. Huh?
Good pass along there, and that will conclude, the Torah portion. Of course, all praises to Yahweh about you, Yahweh Shai. For that, we're going to pick up in the gospel. Father Bob, you could pick up Luke 4 and starting at 16. We can start this gospel portion.
You say Luke 4 and what?
16. Read 16 to 31.
Okay. Luke 4 and 16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book and gave it again to the minister, and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. And all bare him witness, and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is not this Joseph's son? And he said unto them, Ye will surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. Whatsoever we have heard done at Capernaum, do also here in thy country. And he said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. But I tell you of truth, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elias, when the heaven was shut up 3 years, 6 months.
Real quick. When it say no prophet shall be accepted in his own country. For example, a lot of brothers I know can relate to this. When you first come into truth, the first people that you're going to try to bring the scriptures out to is your family, maybe your mother, your father, whoever. If you notice, they don't take you seriously, typically. Why? Because they know you. That's your own country. That's why they said it's not this Joseph's son. Who the hell are you? We know you. Y'all are broke. Y'all live in the hood just like we do. Y'all ain't never been nothing. Nothing great came from y'all before. Who the hell are you? That's how they looked at the Satan. They looked at Yahweh Shai. This is why you might get this. Let's say you start doing the work in an area where people know you. They're not going to take you seriously because they know you. They feel like, yeah, you was the same dude that got tripped in the halls of school, whatever, and they don't take you seriously because they know you. That's why it's good for brothers. And a lot of brothers I know do the work in cities where they didn't grow up in. You see what I'm saying? That happen. Not saying that you shouldn't, but when you know a lot of people, things that are from your past, your old sins when you were in ignorance, sometimes will skew the way people look at you because people have a respected person. They don't understand repentance and waking up and things of that nature. So Yahweh Shai went through that. That's why he said is the servant greater than the master. Yahweh Shai was criticized by the people of his own country. How much more us? You understand what I'm saying? But go ahead, start back at what was that? What was you at?
26.
26. Okay, go ahead.
It says, but unto none of them was Elias sent, save unto Sarepta, a city of Sidon, unto a woman that was a widow, And many lepers were in Israel in the time of Eliseus the prophet, and none of them was cleansed, saving Naaman the Syrian. And all they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath, and rose up and thrust him out of the city, and led him unto the brow of the hill whereon their city was built, that they might cast him down headlong.
So they wanted to throw Yahushua off of a cliff, basically. They wanted to kill him. One of the many times they wanted to put our Lord to death, right? Go ahead.
But he, passing through the midst of them, went his way.
But he went through the middle of them. He had a very evasive spirit. Every time they tried to kill him, save when it came time for the crucifixion, he evaded any hurt and harm because his spirit was dealing with him. You mean tell me if some white boy that was up there, Caesar was up there, evading people and escaping through the midst of an angry mob that tried to kill him? Yeah, right. All right, this is how we know that was a black man, right? But finish that up to 31.
And came down to Capernaum, a city of Galilee, and taught them on the Sabbath days.
So Yahushua was doing the work, teaching once a week. Ain't that what we do? You know, so that's the precedence for us going out at least once a week to teach. Yahushua did it. Now, he also would teach more frequently. We can read about pretty much daily teachings he did, but in the beginning, he taught them on the Sabbath day. Once a week, he would deal with them and teach the scriptures. You see what I'm saying? So that's why that's the minimum that we do. I mean, minimum that we can do, you know, is go out there at least once a week, you know. But that was the end of 31? Okay, you know, again with that, you know, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. You know, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. If there's any questions, of course, get in contact, phone, email, social networks, whatever. Everybody have a blessed and peaceful Shabbat. Again, call along Yahweh Shem Yahushua and Shalom.